everyone. So, it's been a while. I promised this video about a year ago and didn't make it. And today, I'm finally filming it. Now, there are some reasons behind why I didn't film this 1 year ago, and I am going to let myself talk about that at the end of this video, but we're here for Monster High, baby! So, this video is going to be me talking about my personal experience and maybe unhealthy relationship with the Mattel toy line Monster High. Now, I have done myself up a little bit for the occasion. I am wearing a slightly Draculaura inspired makeup look and shirt. These earrings weren't really what I planned on wearing, but they're the funnest ones I could find without waking anyone up in the house. Let's get into it. So we're gonna start with some background in general on Monster High. Now, I'm assuming if you're a part of my audience, there's a really high chance you already know what this is, but just in case, Monster High was a toy line that ran from 2010 through 2018. It's kind of split up into two generations. Generation 1 is from 2010 to 2016. Generation 2 is considered to be from 2016 to 2018. Alright, so according to the Monster High wiki, Monster High is an American fashion doll franchise created by Garrett Sander and Mattel. It launched in July of 2010 and consisted of dolls, a web series, movies, books, and other kind of like typical toy line sort of stuff. And it had pretty big success, I would say, coming as someone who is obviously a fan. Monster High was something super unique and super different. The idea was taking classical monsters, so from your old black and white movies, and turning them into fashionable teenage girls. It took a lot from goth subcultures, alternative fashion, Japanese street style, and turned that into a series of dolls aimed at kids. The characters are all teenagers, they go to a high school together. The web series kind of allowed them each to have their own personality, and they'd go on small adventures, which really translates well to a doll line, having kind of strong characters that you can play with and have a story to base, your own, adventures and playing with dolls off of. But they still maintained the kind of classic aesthetics of fashion doll lines where they had different outfit packs, different lines that were, like slumber party, beach party lines. They had ones that had lockers with them, like school themed. I think Laguna Blue was like biology and Ghoulia had like a gym uniform one, which were definitely two dolls. I definitely owned one. They were able to maintain character integrity and have really strong characters while still being a fashion toy line and being marketable. Some other things that I personally thought were really awesome: the marketing. They did a fantastic job. The Monster High website was really cool. There were lots of different games and activities you could do on there. The branding and packaging in and of itself. I so wish I still even just had the packaging for my Ghoulia doll, because so good. So the original line launched with I think 5 or 6 characters. Okay, wait, Frankie, Claudette, Laguna Blue, Draculaura, and Cleo and Deuce. I think Cleo and Deuce were packed together. This is no longer facts. This is just me trying to remember. Ghoulia came along later. Ghoulia was my favorite. I am a Ghoulia stan. And you might remember me mentioning the separate generations. Now, what happened is Mattel in 2016 decided to rebrand the line to try and reach a younger audience. Mattel had lost a major franchise. I think they had lost the right to license Disney toys. Is that what's in my notes? Yeah. So Mattel had lost the rights to licensing Disney princess toys, so they were trying to replace that core audience of younger girls who like Disney toys with Monster High. So they had a major rebrand. They redid a lot of the characters' facial sculpts. They really toned down a lot of the fashion. They took out, a lot of the more alternative elements, made it a little simpler, easier to get them changed. The outfits were, I would say, less nuanced. And it really, really sunk the franchise. A lot of long-term fans were super disappointed. I myself, while I wasn't still into Monster High at this time, do remember looking at the dolls and being like, man, this just is nowhere near, the quality and what I had come to expect for so long from Monster High. So yeah, the rebranding is what led to its eventual very silent cancellation. Basically, they just like quietly stopped producing dolls in 2018, but it does sound like they're coming out with a very small collector's line sometime this year, which is exciting for me as someone with adult money. So this is just a little background on Monster High. There are other videos that dive in far deeper, I'm sure. Now we get to my mix in this. Because if you don't know, I'm 23 right now. I'm about to turn 24. And when Monster High came out in 2010, I was 13 years old, which is getting, you know, most 13-year-olds aren't asking for fashion dolls for things. And I'm not trying to generalize in any way. I'm sure there are my other 13-year-old Monster High fans out there who are like, Mary, I was there with you. And in that case, hell yeah. Tell me if you were a 13-year-old to like 17-year-old fan, because I was in a really weird place where I had been getting really into the ball jointed doll community. And if you've been on my YouTube channel for a long time, you might know I used to have a lot of actually ball jointed doll related content on here. I've since privated most of that just because I was so young at the time, and having content from when I was so young on my channel does make me a little uncomfortable because I let Baby Mary be a separate entity for myself. I didn't do anything wrong, it just feels weird. And so how I actually found out about Monster High was through ball jointed doll communities, through Den of Angels or whatever other forums I was surfing on. I think just someone posted on there and being like, hey, look what Mattel is making, this looks super cool. And I was like, whoa, this does look super cool. Why do I feel so embarrassed about this? It's totally fine. It's totally harmless. I just really liked a toy line. Some other context that I think is really important for me to share about this time in my life. So when I was 13, I believe I was just entering 7th grade, which I would highlight as one of the top worst years in my schooling experience. I have 7th grade and I have my junior year of high school. Those were like, that's when the rough stuff happened. In 7th grade, especially, puberty hit me really, really hard. I gained 40 pounds in the course of a summer. I had gained an immense amount of weight. I felt super uncomfortable with my body and how I looked. And also at the same time, I was going to a middle school that required uniforms, but I was getting really, really interested in alternative fashion while still being super self-conscious about how I looked and having no self-confidence. I was absolutely just a wet towel on the floor. And I super struggled through that period in my life. I felt really isolated from my peers. I felt really confused about what I wanted to look like and the fact that I didn't look how I wanted to look. And it was a really, really hard time for me. And it's kind of hard to talk about in retrospect in this format because I feel like I have to be very formal, and it just feels like the opposite of that. I was really struggling. And that all in mind is, I think, what super drew me to Monster High, because it was a toy line that really, really emphasized how important everyone being different was, and highlighted that yeah, hey, we can have weird features about us, we can have scars, we can have we can all be so different and still be friends and still be pretty and still get along. We can be monsters and still coexist, I guess. And that super appealed to me as someone who felt very much like an outsider and that I didn't fit in and something was weird and wrong with me. I just super latched onto that. I was like, oh my god, I feel represented. I don't feel like I look like a Barbie. I didn't think I looked like a Monster High doll, but in the grand scheme of things, I related more to them simply because it was okay and cool to be different in that context, where I felt, Barbie and other doll brands were really hyperfixated on aesthetics that I could not replicate and I could not match. I really loved Monster High. I also was introduced to it and found out about it right when it was starting out. I was, a pretty early, I guess, fan, and I immediately joined MonsterHighDolls.com, which was a forum that they created for Monster High fans. People would roleplay on there, share stories, make characters. It was a really interesting mix of adult fans and kids, which is not a balance I think I want to be involved in. Again, at the time, being kind of in the middle, I was like, yeah, this is fine, we're just talking about dolls, which is what it is. But I became an incredibly active member on there. While I looked through my post history and I didn't actually post very actively, I was a hardcore lurker on there. You see, I wanted to know and be in on all the latest news. Part of that was because I came in at this perfect time where I was feeling really, really low in my life. I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends. I didn't feel like people appreciated me, and that was really hard. And then that combined with joining a new growing community where information was really rare and we were all searching for stuff all the time. Thus began my, I don't want to say obsession, but kind of obsession with finding Monster High leaks. I would search for hours and hours to find Monster High leaks. And my family is very technology positive. Both my parents have worked in computer programming. We've always had computers in the house. So at this time, I had a computer in my own room. I was staying up so late and getting up so early to go on monsterhigh.com, get the latest news, search through the webs. I would look on like German toy sites to find out leaks from toy fairs. Like I searched so hard for everything. I can't remember this for sure. Like I don't know the timeline. I don't know if I was first, but I swear to God I was one of the first people to leak the Abby Abominable photos when we found them. And by leak I mean post them on Monster High. Like I don't know for sure, but like I just remember that being a specifically super, super exciting thing. If not the first pictures of Abby, like some important picture of her. I remember me posting that and that being a big deal in the forums. I might be remembering wrong though, so Monster High stans who are there with me, feel free to call me out if I am incorrect. Also, I don't know if my Monster High Dolls account still exists or if that website still exists, which is very crazy to think about. But yeah, I began investing a lot of my time to that community. And it got to a point where I would say, you know, do something and lose internet access because my grades weren't doing well, because I was hyper fixating on Monster High. Say my grades weren't doing well, parents took away my computer, I would use the web browser on my DS. Lose my DS, I would use the web browser on the Wii. Lose access to the Wii, well, that's okay because I have a computer class in school in which has access to monsterhighdolls.com because the schools hadn't learned to block a forum for fashion dolls. So it was just such a constant part of my life from 2010 to 2012. And I'm really thankful for the friends I had then because I feel like y'all really like, you just let me do it, you know? And same with my mom. Like, I feel like it would have been so easy for so many people to be like, Mary, this is so weird. Like, you're 13, 14, 15-ish during this period of time. Why do you care so much about this? But thankfully, like, everyone in my life was like, yeah, Mary's just into that right now. And that's just her thing. And interestingly enough, also, the first YouTube video I ever made that showed my face in it was a Monster High related video. I was entering a contest ran by a toys channel to make a Valentine's Day related thing. I'll put a little clip somewhere. It's incredibly middle school me. Here she is. Don't we love middle school? My polo uniform's on. I remember after posting that, I was so scared. I was so scared that A, people would find out that I liked Monster High and give me shit about it, because I've been bullied a fair amount through elementary school and stuff, and anxiety was starting to happen. She didn't know it was anxiety at the time, but like that's when it was starting, baby. I was so afraid of that. I was also so afraid people would just like recognize me from the video, and like the idea of being known, which is so funny now considering how much content of me exists online, but just the idea of someone being like, I saw her in that video, was very scary for me. So like, good on you know, young Mary for having the confidence to do that and kind of face that fear, but also, honey, you didn't have to. Oh my god, I just want to pat her little head. She was so nervous about things. 7th grade, man. That was a trip. Sorry, I'm reading through my notes. Yeah, it's hard to emphasize how big of a deal this was to me during this period of time, but it just was all I thought about, and it's all I cared about, and I was really, really struggling with a lot of like aspects of my life, and that's the thing that brought me comfort, the thing that brought me joy. Not the only thing, but like the main one was just Monster High. This isn't necessarily something that's unique in my life. Also, I was reflecting on this earlier today when thinking about making this video, is I can really easily divide my life up into chunks based around what my interest was at the time. So like Monster High was late middle school, early high school. Through high school, cosplay was definitely my in my cosplay group. That was my focus. That was what I cared about. I, was planning shoots, getting the group together. Like, that was my care, that was my thing. My first couple years of university, it was veganism and healthy living and fitness. I just go through these phases, these chunks of really, really strongly attaching myself to a concept or a subculture or an idea, and like, that is me. Unpacking that and realizing that that is how I've built my identity over the years has been super weird, just because it feels in a way like my interests become inauthentic, because part of me is like, do I even control what I care about? Because it seems like my brain just chooses something, and that's like, I don't even know what my thing is right now. Like, maybe it's YouTube and streaming. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I really wanted to be liked, and I used the Monster High community as a space where I felt liked and I felt appreciated. And when I shared, those photos that I found or this or that I found, I received praise, and it felt like people liked me, and I felt community there in a way that I wasn't feeling in my daily life and outside of the internet. So it definitely played an important role for me. I think it was really important for me to get to have something that, felt like accepted me no matter how I physically looked or appeared to the outside world, and that was something that was celebrated. Yeah. So basically, sometimes if you're not mentally well, you grasp onto stuff and use that as a coping mechanism, and maybe that's been my entire life, but hey, I have been going to therapy for like a year now. Also, I feel like this video originally had like an arc to it, and I don't know if I managed that this time. Did you feel a beginning and end in the middle? I just talked about Monster High, and then I was just hardcore into it. Also, like, Ghoulia dolls in package are like $100 now, and I'm actually upset about it because I would love to have one. Again, they're so expensive. So for those of you who stayed to the end, why didn't you make this video last year? Mary, you said you would. I did actually film this video last year. I can't remember the exact time. I think it actually was probably in October of last year, kind of around my 23 video. And something that I haven't super talked about online is this last year I've really, really struggled with making any content that included my physical appearance, my face. You can kind of see I've gone through phases of being really into making videos and then fading apart, being really into streaming and then like fading away from that. And the main reason is it has been really, really hard for me to look at myself. It really sucks to say this. So a lot of the issues with self-confidence that I had in 7th grade have continued through my life, and while I've made really good strides in it and viewing myself as a positive human being and someone who is deserving of space and all of that, it definitely got a lot worse over the last 2 years. I was in a really unfortunate relationship situation, which did not help my mental health at all and my perception of myself and my worthiness. And that's been something I've been really unpacking over the last year and been really working on. And changes in bodies are really hard. It's really hard. Quarantine hasn't helped, but I am okay. I am seeing counseling. I am, constantly trying to use my mindfulness tools and, see myself as just a normal human who is flawed, don't get me wrong, but deserves love, and that I need to love myself. That is a weird sound. Okay. Muska's like, I'm sleeping. you guys. That's just kind of why I've been quieter on here. I have been trying really hard to stream more because that's been a really good experience for me to talk to new people. That's something I have a lot of anxiety around, ironically, I know, with my hobbies. But people are scary sometimes, so like feel free to come hang out in my chat and we can just have anxiety together. Play Nancy Drew. That's been the vibe, baby. But yeah, is there anything from your childhoods that y'all kind of grasp onto, either as a coping mechanism or just as a weird brain person? Like, is this just me? Do y'all also have like 2-year periods of hyperfixation? I don't know. Is that a brain thing, or is that just like a human thing? I haven't looked it up yet. I'm not going to. Also, this is not how I usually do my makeup. I feel like I should clarify that, but I kind of like the slight e-girl vibes. I'm also very sweaty. So if you see now that I'm quite shiny, that is why. Okay, I'm gonna start editing this video, so it happens. I hope that you all are doing well. If you enjoyed this video and you would like me to make more content like this, feel free to give it a like. Subscribe if you would like to see more of this sweet face, and I will see you all next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Oh, watch me on Twitch, but also bye.